Welcome to another episode of Wheel of Horror, the podcast where two best friends spin a wheel once a week. It chooses the horror movie and they discuss it. Today we're talking about 1963's The Birds, which was directed by Alfred Hitchcock. I'm your co-host, Alec.
I'm Eric. Just kidding, it's Justin. And
I thought that was Eric for a second.
this movie was pretty interesting.
Oh, wow, jumping right in. Yeah, dude. Okay, so first off, is this your first Alfred Hitchcock movie?
I think so.
Have you seen Psycho?
I have not seen Psycho, which I know is like one of the most famous movies in history. And everything else I'm pretty sure is like from a super long time ago. So I don't think so.
So his first movie was 1922.
Oh.
So try and wrap your head around that. Yeah.
All right.
His first movie came out 99 years ago, which is kind of crazy.
Oh.
So this is very late in his career. And apparently he was making a movie every year from basically 1940 until 1960, which is just insane.
It's a lot of movies, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so this is your first time seeing any Alfred Hitchcock movie. So, yeah, what'd you think just off the bat? Because I have a lot of questions for you. So.
Well, I tried to go into this movie with the most open mind that I've gone into prior ones because, I mean, one, like you said, it's from 1963. And you told me the other day, you're like, look past like the bad effects and like the fact that like the birds are like clearly fake.
Right.
I went into it being like really objective. And first off, I just want to cover, I feel like the bird scenes and the human scenes were filmed differently and they just were like collided, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Because it looked like the people were like swatting, but like it looked like the bird things were just like put over it.
Yeah, I can explain that. So really quick, let me just give a little bit of a synopsis of this movie just so people, in case they haven't seen it, they know what we're talking about. So basically it's about a woman, her name is Mel, and she's played by Tippi Hedren. She's just like a socialite in San Francisco. She meets this man who has a crush on her, and basically he drives up to this little town called Bodega Bay, and then she follows him there because I guess she has a crush on him. And then when she gets there, these birds start attacking everybody. And that's pretty much it. The birds just start attacking. And then it's just how this small town deals with it. But yeah, so the way they filmed it, back to that, it's basically what they would do is they would film just birds, like just by themselves in a room, just in front of a screen. And they'd be freaking out. It's called like yellow screening or something. The birds are all freaking out, doing their stuff. Then they would put that on top of the film. So, for example, the scene where they're all coming down from the fireplace and they're all waving their arms, there's nothing there, obviously.
Right.
So that's how they did that. But it does get more impressive, but we can talk about that later. So, yeah. So you look past that.
Yeah, I mean, one of the first things I noticed, which was probably the hardest thing to get past, was like the first 15 minutes in the pet store where like
yeah.
So the older woman who worked there was making so many facial expressions, dude. Like, I don't know if she wasn't an actress or just like it was different in the 1960s, but like her face was moving all over the place and it was hard for me to focus. Dude, did you not notice that?
I mean, I noticed she was like, concerned, I guess.
I laughed so hard, like comedy movie laughed when the canary got out and the two women were like trying to get it. And literally all they were doing was running around in circles with their arms up in the air and just like squeezing their hands. I'm like, this is never gonna fucking work. And then finally the last pet store scene where I rewound it, dude, and laughed again. When she was like, oh, do you think you can order one of those birds? And the pet store lady was like, she said the word you very odd. And anyone that listens to me on Wheel of Horror knows that I find like the weirdest shit to point out. And she was like, I can order them for you. She like did that. Please tell me you noticed that.
I did not notice that. No.
Please, guys, if you're listening to this, go to that scene the first 15 minutes and listen to the last word of that sentence.
It's on Peacock right now, so I guess you can. But so, okay, all right. I'm glad that made you laugh so much. You went back and rewound it. All right.
Oh, also, before I forget, Rod Taylor, Mitch, was in Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah, I know. That was his last film role. He died a couple years after that, in 2015. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, speaking of who's still alive, is Tippi Hedren is still alive.
She's the only one, and the little girl.
Yeah, and the little girl, really quick, dude, she was an alien.
I know. I don't know who she was, though.
She was the other, like, female on board who, she gets killed. She, like, screams when the alien pops out of the guy's stomach. She's like, oh, my God! Like, that woman.
Okay, for, like, a brief second before I clicked on her IMDb, I was like, is that fucking Newt?
No, 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 no. But yeah, she's also in Scary Movie 2. She's like the possessed girl's mom when she like pisses all
Okay.
over the floor and she's just like, she's really sick. Like she's that woman. But yeah, so but Tippi Hedren, dude, is like 90, man. That's
I know.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so nuts. This is like her first like big this is like her first movie.
Yeah, I mean, dude, the whole time I was watching this, like, kind of, you're gonna like this. It gave me like a good appreciation for movies back then because like I probably haven't seen more than like I'm gonna round up 10 movies before like 1980.
Wow,
Like
really?
I kind of just like dodge it because I assume I won't like it. And like just watching this, like how they spoke was so different, how they like their like mannerisms were so different than current movies. It was like everyone, like even just in casual conversation, was just like talking very elegantly.
Yeah.
And I was like, is that how it was? And then I did like a carbon thing, like back in 1963, 63, 60, like, and I was like, I don't know, like, I wonder if people like spoke like that.
I mean, I don't think so. It's kind of like a stage, talk. It's called, like, Mid-Atlantic sort of speak, because a lot of them are British and English, so it's kind of this, like, weird
Okay.
radio way of speaking that they kind of got rid of in the '70s.
It reminded me of Casablanca. You
Yeah.
remember in the Great Movie Ride in Disney where like you go past the Casablanca one and she's like, "Will I ever see you again?" And he's like, "I don't know." Like they like talk
Oh,
like
yeah.
that.
Yeah, it's like news talk. "Hey, here we go, kids." Like, "I love you, darling." "Of course you do, sweetheart." Like, that kinda
Speaking of darling, Mitch called his
I
mom
know.
darling. I'm like, I don't know if this is a 1960s thing, but like,
Yeah.
imagine you go home for Christmas and your mom's like, "Hey, Alec," and you're like, "Hey, darling."
Oh, yeah, and, like, kissing his mom on the head, she's like, "It's alright, darling. Don't worry about it." It's like, "Okay. Okay, wait."
What
So,
the fuck?
couple quick things I just wanna ask you. Did you notice, like, the one glaringly different thing about this movie that's pretty much different than any film I can think of?
I feel like I will when you mention it. Can you give
Yeah.
me more of a hint?
It's something in every single movie that is not in this movie, and the fact that you haven't mentioned it's interesting that it didn't stand out, but there's something so glaringly obvious that's missing from this film that's in everything, every movie.
I don't know. Mention it, and I'll probably know.
There's no music at all.
Oh shit, you're right.
There's 0 music, there's no score, there's no, like, the birds attacking, there's nothing, dude, there's no music.
Yeah, I'd say that kind of adds to the like suspense, like because it's just like the suspense, like they really built up the fact, like birds, like I don't know. I tried picturing like the actors being handed this script, right? And like they all knew who Alfred Hitchcock was, this like
Oh,
most
yeah.
famous director person, and they're
Oh,
handed
yeah.
this script, and I'm just like I'm picturing Mitch reading it, and he's like, okay, and we're in a town, and seagulls are killing us. He's just like, okay.
It's like, well, this guy did Psycho and, like, 800 other movies, I guess
It's
he knows what
Alfred
he's doing.
Hitchcock. I don't know.
But dude, here's the thing, like, birds are such like a you never think about them. You see them like, "Oh, it's a fucking bird." Imagine they just all start attacking you at once, and that's all they care about. It's like rabies for birds, and they just go
Mm.
crazy. Like, it's a pretty scary idea if you really think about it. And even that woman mentioning there's 10 billion of them, you're like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, that's later on in my notes about that older lady, but it's funny that bar scene at the end
Oh,
had
yeah.
so many like stereotypical things that today movies are taking from them, like
Right, right.
the older woman who like they're just having this conversation like birds would never do that, and then like all of a sudden there's like she's like I'm a birdologist.
Yeah. Lights up a cigarette, like
She lights up a cigarette. She's like, I'm a birdologist. She's like, birds of a feather. What she says, she's like, birds don't flock together. And I'm like, well, technically they do because of that saying.
she meant, like, different birds don't flock together.
Right, right. Like birds of a feather flock together. Like the same type of bird.
Right, right,
But
right.
but yeah, it was just so funny. I'm like, what is this birdologist doing? And then they had in the corner the typical like the world's gonna end like drunk fisherman guy.
Oh god, I love that.
And then the like sophisticated like boat captain guy, he's like, I'm a fisherman. Like just like all in the same restaurant at the same
Right.
time.
Dude, but that's the thing, like, this is the first time we see that, but that's such a trope now in all of these movies that come up. You've got, like, the wacky guy. It's
Mm.
really yeah, so, like, it sets the stage for that. I think the one thing about this movie is, like, it's like it starts at the top, like, this is about we meet the town, there's a story interwoven, and then there's the birds that attack. Where now like, more modern films, it kind of, like, cuts out a lot of, like, the bullshit, I guess. It makes it feel like the looming presence is always there. Where this movie takes like 50 minutes before we actually get into, like, the birds are really attacking. There's a lot of
Mm,
setup for this, and
yeah.
newer movies don't really do that.
Yeah, they did a good amount of setting up. I missed a bunch of stuff from the earlier of the movie, so I'm gonna jump back to that. So I guess like the first thing that about this film that I didn't get was so this woman who I'm just gonna say Tippy's like I don't know 35ish, 40 in the film,
32.
32. She has nothing better to do on a Saturday than go to spend her own money on Canaries and drive 4 hours round trip and then get there, go to the teacher's house to find out the daughter's name, rent a boat, drive across the lake just to put the birds in there and be like, haha, it was a prank, just for him to get the binoculars and be like, I caught you.
Justin, she's
Ah,
thirsty,
she's thirsty.
Justin. She
I don't think that was a thing back in the
Dude,
1960s.
she wants him so bad. That's why, like, so, like, basically the idea of it is Tippi Hedren's character is almost like a modern day, like, YouTuber, like TikTok or whatever. She's just like, I do crazy pranks and people write about me in the papers and blah, blah, blah. And
Okay.
then this dude, like, seeks her out. He goes to
I
her
thought
court
he
hearing.
was a lawyer who was like, I'll see you in court, like
He
getting her in
is.
trouble.
So, dude, so she got in trouble for doing some prank and went to court, and he was in court too and saw her and was like, Jesus, I like her. Follows her or whatever, like finds out her wherever she's going, goes to the bird shop, knows who
Okay.
she is. She starts fucking with him and pretending he's like, oh, I work here. And he's like, I know you who you are. So he starts fucking with her, and she's like, ooh, I like this guy. He fucks with me. So then she she buys the canaries, uses her dad's connections at the newspaper to find out where he lives, goes to the house to drop off the canaries to hopefully, what are these guys gonna do? I don't know what they're gonna do. But then that butler guy's like, oh, he went up to Bodega Bay for the weekend or whatever.
Okay.
She's like, okay, I really, really want this guy. So I'm gonna drive 6 hours or whatever up there or
I
whatever.
thought he was like a lawyer prosecuting her. And I was like, this is like a, you can't do this. But dude, imagine if the roles were reversed. Like some guy was like, I'm attracted to this girl. Like, I'm gonna buy these birds who I only talked to for 5 minutes. I'm gonna drive 4 hours round trip, find out where you live, go to your teacher's house, find out your daughter's name.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, here's the thing, man. Regardless, it's weird either way. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think even for the guy, he's kinda just like, "What the fuck? Did you just break into my house?"
And they were laughing about it. I'm like, man, that's breaking and entering. That's
Dude,
illegal.
he's like, "Hey, that was a cute joke, but, like, you broke into my house." And she's like, "I'm just kidding, darling." He's like, "No, it's not okay. We need to go talk police."
She's like, Mitch, it's 1963. Calm down.
He's like, all right. Your head's hurting you. Get some brandy."
Speaking of which, the like town shop owner guy, he
Yeah.
sounded exactly like the dude from South Park, where they were like, how do we get to this town? He's like, only way down there is through that spooky road. He's like, wouldn't go down there though. Like,
Oh, Justin, that guy, the character's from Pet Sematary. You have to see Pet Sematary.
I've
Is that
seen Pet Cemetery. I've seen
not the
it.
new one, not the new one.
I've seen the original. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the character from
I
South
know,
Park.
but it
Yeah.
sounded like that guy. And
Right,
also,
right.
speaking of which, that shop owner had a ton of patience, which, like, imagine if you went into like a modern day 7-Eleven and you were like asking the dude at the register 15 questions. He'd be like, are you going to buy something or not? Like,
Well, this is a small town,
I
like,
know, I know.
it's a like a seaside town. This guy's probably like, "Damn, this who the hell is this lady?"
Just imagine though, like, she's like, can you get me a boat? And he's like, okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
She's like, you can't do it yourself.
Well, that's the thing, I think back then it was kind of just like, "Service, like, we're here for you all the time," you know? You go to the gas station, like, 10 dudes pop out and, like, wipe your car down. Now it's just
Mm.
like, people smoking cigarettes and spitting and stuff.
Also, when she went to the teacher's house to get the name of the daughter, and she was writing Kathy's name on the card, how did she know Kathy was spelled with a C and not a K?
I don't know, Justin.
I'm just, these are the things that I notice.
I know, I know. It's a great question. I'm sure there's a reason, but I don't know. So wait, getting into a little bit of the behind the scenes stuff here. Did you know anything about Alfred Hitchcock's obsession with Tippi Hedren?
Like obsession because she's attractive.
He got like wicked obsessed with her, dude. Like started casting her in all of these movies and started making like advances on her and stuff. And
So he's like a modern day Weinstein or whatever.
dude, seriously, there's an interview that came out a couple years ago, and she's just like, he was touching me. I pushed him off. I said I wasn't interested. He said he'd ruin my career, and I said I
Oh
don't
my god.
care. I know, and I'm just like, oh no. Yeah, so I was just like, "That sucks," but I guess there's a movie about his obsession, dude, called The Girl, and it was, like, an HBO movie in 2012, and it's all about the behind the scenes of this movie and, like, 3 other movies where he's, like, he's had Alfred Hitchcock has a wife and a daughter and all this stuff, and he's just like, "No, Tippy, I want Tippy," and he's, like, freaking
Yeah,
out, man.
that's weird. Unfortunately, like so much of that weird shit happens in Hollywood. Like I just don't understand why that shit happens.
Yeah, I
I thought she
know.
did good though.
Oh, yeah.
She was a good actress. I'm happy she was successful. Like,
Her granddaughter is Dakota Johnson from 50 Shades of Grey. That's her granddaughter.
oh,
Yeah,
good
so
to
it's like a
know.
lineage of people from this, but yeah, this is, like, her first movie, and she was, like, 32. She was a model throughout her 20s, and then Alfred Hitchcock, I think, saw a picture and was just like, "I want her."
I will have her.
Yeah, it's kinda weird, man.
Also, she was wearing high heels throughout the entire film, and I'm sure you've heard women complain about wearing high heels. Admittedly, because I'm sure they're terrible. Like when they walk from the car to the bar for like 5 minutes, and I would never want to wear high heels. But this woman was wearing them, walking all through this village, walking down a ladder into the boat, and then she was wearing them in the sand. When have you ever like? I have to believe that the heel would snap in the sand.
I, again, did not notice that. I
when they were
don't
when she and Mitch were on the beach, like having a glass of wine, he was like in
yeah.
his dress shoes and she was in her high heels, and I'm like, what the fuck?
I mean, the only thing I can think of is that she only brought that
I
one
know.
pair of shoes because, they make a whole point of that where she's like, "Here's my bag," and it's just like a dress that rolled up or whatever, but I don't know. I didn't really notice her shoes that much, but yeah.
um, Scariest part of the film was when the
Oh, yeah.
dad's eyes were removed.
Yes! Dude, that's my favorite too.
That was pretty. I didn't expect it.
Dude, it's because there's no music either. It just, like it, like, cuts up really quick, no music, and it's just his
Yeah.
fucking head, just, like, with missing eyeball.
Because music adds a buildup in movies, and there was just like they walk in and he's just on the floor, eyes out.
Yeah. Well, the other reason I like this movie too, aside from just like the music and whatever, but if we were looking at this from like a modern lens, there'd be like a scene where they find like a cavern full of eggs and like, oh my god, they're gonna lay millions, and there'll be like one monster, like mother eagle that's like, ah, like it would just that's what I feel like would happen in the new and like the birds are like doing funny things like smoking cigarettes or like drinking beer. Like it would be like stupid stuff like that. This movie
Mm.
takes itself pretty seriously. Like it really does. That blowing up the gas thing, I mean,
Okay.
that's probably like the most dangerous thing the birds do to these people aside from peck their like faces off.
Dude, the gas station scene, first of all, I don't know, if maybe back then they didn't have those safety things where if you're not squeezing it, it, like, stops.
Oh
But, like,
yeah.
okay, let's say back in 1960s, they didn't have that safety thing. The gas out of the pump was fucking bursting out like a
Yeah.
fire hydrant. So it was first I'm watching this, it's bursting out, it's traveling in the correct path down to the car, which I'm like, okay, it's a horror movie. And then the guy gets out of his car, lights up a cigarette as everyone's like, no, don't do it, don't do it. And like you're telling me you don't see this massive flood feet away from you. And then naturally you would look up and be like, oh shit, that's like coming from the gas station. And the second he throws the match down, he just combusts.
Dude, alright, so the only thing that I can explain for why that happens is if you notice at the bar scene, dude, when they're all having their thing, that's the guy that's like, "Give me a scotch, light on the water," and then pounds it as that woman's like, "Would you mind driving me and my daughter home, mister?"
It was one scotch, dude.
But maybe he was drinking before that, maybe this guy's a piece of shit, we don't know. Well, the other thing is I was also kinda like, why is he lighting a cigar outside? Like, he doesn't give a fuck, he's about to smoke the cigar in the car, why doesn't
I
he just
know,
light it
I
in the
know, I know.
car?
He got out,
But
he's like, I just want some fresh air.
yeah, he's like, "Don't worry, honey, I'm just gonna light a cigar after I just chug this scotch and drive you and your daughter home. I don't have seatbelts either." And he just gets out.
It's 1963. It's not illegal.
"What's a seatbelt?" And he's like, "Exactly." But he lights up his cigar, and then, yeah, obviously, it explodes like a grenade goes off, and then, like, Grand Theft Autos, the other cars next to it, where they all start blowing up.
I know.
But
And
yeah,
then the camera zooms out and like the town's divided by flames and the birds are just like, ha ha
dude,
ha.
so that shot is probably the coolest shot of the whole movie, dude. So, I mean, I'll kind of explain it really quick. They show this aerial shot where they show the fire and they show the townspeople running, and it's just the town. Dude, that's a matte painting. So that's all a painting. And what they did is they just filmed down on this very small portion of a parking lot and a couple cars driving, and then everything around that was painted in the background. And then
Yeah.
then they put another thing on top of that to have the bird flying around. Like, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I noticed a couple scenes where the background was like, obviously a painting.
I love that though. I love matte paintings, dude. I think they just add this weird coolness to movies. I don't know. They don't do them obviously anymore, but
Yeah, it was cool. Also, so I mean, this is where Mitch lives. He lives in this town. He said he goes down to San Francisco for work Monday through Friday. But like, he had such a nice, elegant house for a very small, remote fishing village. Like, when they showed the inside, there was very nice furniture. It wasn't like, like, I don't know. You have to see, like, if in movies where you see like fishing villages and people live there, like, it's not like the most like rich houses. It just seemed kind of out of place.
well, I think for him, it's basically, I would imagine he grew up in that town with his mother. Father died. They had another daughter later in life or whatever. And he has a great job in San Francisco. Maybe he was able to pump some money back into their house back in a cheaper beach town and then kind of, works in San Francisco, comes up on the weekend, spends time with his mom and his sister. The one thing I just want to ask you too, how old do you think this guy is, that actor?
Mitch,
Yeah.
it's probably gonna be older than I think, but I want to say 40.
He's 30, dude.
Really?
He was 30, dude.
Oh, dude. I mean, it's probably because they were smoking like 6 packs a day. Like, he does not look. He looks way older than we look.
He looks, dude, I was like, "Oh, this guy's probably like 45." And I look at it, he's literally younger than us right now. And I'm like, "Wow, like what happened to this guy?" Dude, he
Yeah, I
died
don't
like
know, dude.
6 years ago. Dude, he lived to like 85. So I was
I
like,
know.
"Okay." But anyway, so yeah, so that's what I would imagine with him. And then, probably looking to settle down now. He's got his life figured out, his career, is taking care of his mom and sister. He meets Tippi Hedren, wants
Did
to
it say what happened to his like wife or her mom?
he never had a wife.
Well, who was her mom? The little girl.
That old lady.
No, no, no. It wasn't that little girl his daughter.
Oh, it's his sister.
That oh.
Kathy.
Oh, you want to know why I'm confused? Because I'm assuming the mother is like 60, and then like he's like, this is my little girl, but he's only 30, but he just looks like
Yeah.
he's fucking 50.
Yeah, the old lady, her husband died 4 years ago in a car crash or something like that. So he's probably coming up on weekends to help out with her or whatever. But yeah, he's 30, she's like 60, and the little girl's like, I don't know, 15, maybe not even probably.
Okay.
So I mean, she's very young. Her mom's wicked old, but yeah.
One of my favorite scenes was when Tippy goes to the school to get the little girl, and the teacher was like, "Oh, 1 minute, they're just like finishing their song," and they sang for like 40 freaking minutes, dude. And then she's sitting out there smoking, and like every few seconds she turns around and there's like a few more birds, a few more birds, and it's very obvious they're like piling up. And I was like, "Oh shit, this is kind of creepy."
Dude, well, that's the thing. Everybody thinks Hitchcock, it's like horror, horror. He's more the master of like suspense, like building tension. You're like, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? Sort of thing. And
Mhm.
he does it with a lot of his movies where there'll be a bomb about to go off and there'll be somebody running up the stairs and he keeps cutting back to the bomb and then them running. What's gonna happen? The music. This one, it's a slow burn, the cigarette's lit and she just keeps burning, more birds come, and yeah, I love it.
Yeah, yeah, it was good.
I was thinking also, like, they don't really ever explain what causes this, and I kinda like that.
Oh, I looked up some stuff.
Of what causes this?
I looked up some stuff about the movie because I just didn't get it. So I guess we'll just shoot to the ending part and work our way back. So one, I didn't like the ending.
Oh, yeah, the ending was too abrupt, yeah. It was too long for that kinda ending.
Well, first of all, I didn't understand why half the movie the birds are trying to kill people, and then all they're doing is moving slowly. And it's like he's like, aha, it's tricking the small brains, and they like are able to get away. And I didn't like that because it just seemed odd. And then they just like drove off into the sunset.
Yeah.
So I looked up some information about this movie because I'm assuming someone as famous as Alfred Hitchcock has a deeper meaning besides just like birds who kill people. This movie, and I'll read it right off of this page thing. The Birds is a political allegory about the psychological violence of capitalism and fear mongering of the Cold War. So basically, the humans and the birds are supposed to represent like Russia and America, like during this Cold War standoff period, which like I didn't get any of that.
No, I don't get that either.
Not even the tiniest hint of that. He also said, Alfred Hitchcock said a few years later, the birds started killing because they were tired of being killed and eaten by humans.
Okay.
And additionally, that they ingested a toxin which caused them to act strangely, which I don't think the movie covered at all.
The movie did not. So really quick, just to kind of touch upon that. So there was inspired by two things. There's a short story written in 1952 by a British woman, which is basically the same thing, but it's a little bit different. It's more on a farm, and it ends much more horrifically. Everybody dies. So that was the story it's based off of. But then a year or 2 years before this movie came out, in California, in a small town, this actually did happen, where a bunch of birds were attacking people. They were crashing into cars, into houses, and coughing up anchovies everywhere. And the reason for this was they ate a toxic algae, and but they didn't know that
Oh,
at the time. So he read that. He read the short story. He's like, "Oh, sick! This could be a kind of cool movie." But yeah, but that's the thing. I kind of like how they don't explain that. I like how they don't give a reason for it.
they did mention in the movie where they were like, this did happen like a couple of years back. Like they said that, like it happened in the other, but I did not get. I guess it makes sense, like 1960s, the Cold War standoff, but like
Yeah.
I didn't see that now.
No, I would imagine that it would be more of like humans' disrespect for nature and nature turning on it. That's the thing I would think it would be,
The
not
birds
really.
are just sick and tired of being sick and tired, you know?
Yeah, and they're like, "We outnumber you and we could fuck you up," sort of thing. So it's like, interesting. It's just I don't know. It's a cool idea.
I thought Tippy died at the end when she was in the attic and they were like pecking the fuck out of her.
All right, let's talk about that scene. Alfred Hitchcock lied to her, apparently. So he's like, okay, you're going to go in there and there's going to be a ton of mechanical birds and we're going to rotoscope a bunch of them. And so just act like it's crazy or whatever. Go in there, shut the door. She didn't know that there were real birds in there. So she goes in, shuts the door, and they were real birds and they fucked her up, dude, so bad that she had to go to the hospital for a week. And the scene where Mitch, I think his name, he grabs her and runs down the stairs with her, that's a body double because they were filming while she was in the hospital. Because those are
Oh.
real birds actually were like, and dude, I mean, if you watch that scene, especially when like Mitch is like smacking his arm in there and grabbing her, there's definitely real birds in there. Those are not fake. Like, so
Yeah, I mean, it looked like they were real. I thought she died though, because like her body was limp on the ground.
it looked like it. I don't know. But yeah, no, she seemed like she's just fine. The other quick thing is when they're leaving the house, that bird, that black crow that pecks at Mitch, like right as he's slowly walking at the end.
Mhm.
All right, so on the porch. So I saw this behind the scenes documentary really quick where apparently that bird's name was Archie because they had like a really intense like bird handler on set and they all had different names or whatever. And there's one crow named Archie and he hated Mitch. And apparently like every day this bird would just like peck at him for no reason and would just like, go crazy whenever he would walk in the room. And they're all like kind of laughing about it. It's like, I don't know what it was with Archie. He really didn't like Mitch. And he's like, one day he pecked my fucking hand and I went crazy and like started screaming at him. I was like, "That's kinda funny." Like, there's one bird that specifically didn't like him, but
Dude, I still can't believe he's 30.
I know, I know. Dude, he kinda looked like Robin Williams if he was like actually, no, Robin Williams was a hard drinker.
It has to be because back then you could smoke at like 14 and people were just like slamming packs a day
Oh,
because
yeah.
doctors were like, it's healthy and it'll make you cool.
Oh, dude, and there's, like, vending machines everywhere. That old lady's like, "Can you give me a nickel so I can get a pack of cigarettes from this vending
A
machine?"
nickel. Oh
And it's
my
like, "Hey,
God.
kid, get out of the way." And he's like, "Sorry, miss." Like, "I'm getting cigarettes." It's like, "Good for you, son."
So, before we go to the rating real quick, this podcast, here's looking at you, comma film, commented on my post about watching the birds and said that they cannot wait to hear this episode. They love Hitchcock, and I just wanted to say thank you to them because I don't know. We always like Alec and I discuss these older films, which we think like nobody's interested in watching or listening to, and they actually do the best. Like they do better than like the newer films, just because I think not a lot of other people cover super old films. So thank you, and also like it's makes us feel appreciated because it would obviously suck to watch a movie, talk about it, and then like nobody listens to it. So
Uh, no, it's true. It is interesting. Yeah, I'm looking at like the analytics and I'm like, wow, like yeah, Changeling and Suspiria and like I mean it is weird. We've been doing a lot of older films on this wheel specifically. We normally don't do this many older ones, so it is
mm.
is new.
But this movie got a 7.7 on IMDb. When you load it on Peacock,
Mhm.
it said Rotten Tomatoes gave it like a 95%, which seemed insanely high, but I like to go by IMDb. It gave it a 7.7. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I was gonna go 7. it inspired so much. I mean, we wouldn't have Jaws probably without this. We wouldn't have Anaconda without this. We wouldn't have the bats or arachnophobia. We wouldn't have any of those movies. So you have to overlook its length and some of its slower parts and its buildup that doesn't really lead to much. But overall, it sets the stage for a lot of these modern towns getting destroyed by unsuspecting attacker, I guess. So I'm going with a 7.
Okay, I'm actually gonna go with a 7.5.
Fuck you.
Dude, like, I don't know. I really liked it. Like, there were so many things from current scary movies that were taken from it, even down to like the stereotypical characters throughout town, like we talked about at the bar.
Yeah.
And the fact that there was no music, which I didn't even notice, the fact that
Yeah.
like you could make a seagull scary. Because I remember turning this movie on, I was like, seagulls aren't fucking scary. But like, imagine you're just like, standing outside one day like texting and just like this bird's looking at you and you're like, oh, okay. And then like you look back up and there's 5, you'd be like, oh, okay. And then you
Yeah.
look back up and there's 40, I'd be like, all right, I'm gonna get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, dude. Oh, and also, do you know what a group of crows is called?
I don't.
A murder of crows.
Yeah, okay. Well, were they crows or were they blackbirds?
Oh, yeah, I actually don't know. I don't know.
Because that
Yeah.
old lady, like when she said that, I was like, shut up.
She's like, "You stupid fuck," and she, like, pulls out Latin, yeah. Well, anyways, you got any last minute thoughts?
I liked it. It's free on Peacock, which was also free to download if you haven't seen it. So
Yeah, yeah, very true. All right, well, I'm gonna spin the wheel, and we'll see what we get for next week. All right, and I'll say it like Eric. Spinning! All right, and we got It Chapter 2. Very good. You still have not seen It Chapter 1, Justin, right?
no, I have to watch both of them this week. I know
Oh.
I know a little bit about it. And by a little bit, I mean I know it's just an alien who like can turn into a clown.
That's like not even right. So yeah, you gotta watch it.
Oh wait, no. It's the thing that like children are most afraid of, and it takes
Eh,
the shape of a clown.
you're getting there. That's getting
All
closer.
right, thank
Getting
you,
closer.
thank you.
All right, but we also actually have a guest. We have Kat Helena, who's going to be finishing out. She did chapter 1 with us, so she'll be here to finish chapter 2 with us. So that'll be nice. And if you haven't had a chance, make sure you check out our episode on Fresh Films Friday about Ghostbusters Afterlife. Thank you very much for listening in, and we'll see you guys next week with It Chapter 2.
See you.